In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to do drag and drop in HTML5. I'm going to drag several image files from my web publishing folder, inetpub www root, onto one of these two canvases on my test web page. So first of all, let me take one of these images. I'll take the Welsh flag and I'll drag it and drop it over the fixed size canvas. So as you can see, the canvas has accepted the file and drawn it as an image on the canvas. And the image expands to fill the canvas size in that first example. Now see what happens when I drag the same image onto the second canvas. In this case, it actually draws the image in its real size, as opposed to expanding the image to be the same size as the canvas was originally. To show you that more vividly, I've got a picture here of a ski run called the Honeycomb, and I'll drag that first of all onto the first image. So as you can see there, it's filled the canvas, and if I do it the same on the second one, now that's a bit more impressive. So you can see that the image now has retained its original size and the canvas is expanded to show it. I can only drag and drop image files in this example. I've written some code which tests the MIME type of the file that's been dropped, and if it's anything other than an image, it'll reject it. So, for example, I have a text file here, hello world text. If I try to drag that and drop it onto a canvas, I get an error message to say you should have dropped an image. Okay, so let's see how that works. First of all, the HTML file is called dragdropfile.html, and it's in your project files folder. You need to copy that file, plus any images you want to drag, onto the web publishing folder. So, let's take a look at the code. I've opened it in my editor already, and I'll just take you to the bottom of the file first of all, so you can see what the actual page markup looks like. So, I have two canvases here. The first canvas, I've given it a class of fixed size, and the second one, I've given it a class of real size. And I test for that class when I drop a file onto the canvas to determine how exactly to shape it. So, when the window is loaded, this code executes, and this code gets all the canvas elements and sets up drag and drop event handlers for those canvas elements. So we loop through each canvas element, and we handle the drag over event and the drop event on each canvas element. So this is how you can set up drag and drop support in HTML5. So let's take a look first of all at the onDragOver function to see what happens when you drag an item over the canvas. So this handler is here on line 22, and it's quite straightforward. All we do is to suppress the normal behavior of a drag and drop event. Okay, so I'm just preventing the default behavior of drag over. The interesting thing happens when the user lets go of the mouse to drop an item on the canvas. So here we have the onDrop handler. So let me show you the code for that. So first of all, I disable default behavior of drag and drop. So normally when you drop a file onto an HTML element, it'll just display that on the web page, replacing the file that was already there. So I'm suppressing that default behavior. I'm getting the target canvas. So depending on whether the user dropped onto the top canvas or the bottom canvas, we get that canvas. And then this is how you can get the files which have been dropped onto your element. The mouse event object, which is passed in as a parameter, that event object has a data transfer property, and that'll give you the list of files that have been transferred, because theoretically you could drop many files onto a target. So what I do, I'm only interested in the first file that the user might have selected. So I get the first file. First of all then, we check whether there was a file and whether it's of the correct type. If it's of the incorrect type, like a text file, then we display an alert. Otherwise, we use the HTML5 file reader API to read that image into memory. So let's take a look at this. I create a file reader object. When the file reader has completely finished, it'll call that event handler. So let me show you what happens here. I'm trying to read the file into memory. When that file's been completely loaded, this function will be invoked. And this function creates a new image element in HTML. And it sets the image element to be the file that's just been dragged and dropped. and then it passes that image element into a function called displayImage, which I'm going to finish off by showing you at the end of this demo. So the displayImage function takes an image element plus the target canvas, either the one on the top or the one on the bottom in my example. So let's take a look at the displayImage function. It's quite straightforward really. The key point here is down the bottom, where I get the 2D context for the canvas and then draw the image. So first of all, we check whether the target canvas is a fixed size or not. If it has a class called fixed size, then we set the image and the height to be the same fixed size as the canvas itself. Otherwise, we resize the canvas, so the canvas is now the same size as the image. And then once we've done that, we then draw the image on the 2D context for the canvas. So that's the end of this lesson. Key points: in order to support drag and drop, you handle the drag over event and the drop event. In the drop event handler, you will receive a mouse event, and the mouse event has a data transfer property which gives you the files which have been dropped onto your target element.